My home, as you see, it was done by a very amazing designer, decorator, about 20 years ago. His name is Jeffrey Mark.
He is an amazing designer. He is an
He is,
amazing, talented guy.
in Cedarhurst in Jerusalem. And we're
Yeah.
here now with Adena Mark Kapon, who
Hi.
used to live in the Five Towns in the lap of luxury. And now she's living in Efrat in Israel. But I want to, first of all, Adena, there's so much I want to ask you.
Okay.
You were my neighbor around the corner from me. You were living in the lap of luxury. And just to skip over to where I'm going, over the years, you and I have remained friends, and I've seen your pictures on Facebook. I cried. You have several girls, and then you had a son, and I cried when I saw you with him when he was introduced into the Israeli army. And I am a coward. And I said to myself, this is years ago, how the heck is she giving that son, after all those girls, with a smile on her face, to the army? But that's where we're going. And let's start from the beginning. You were raised in the Five Towns. You were a Hafter girl.
No, I was a Central girl.
But where did you go to elementary school?
I went to Flatbush Elementary School, believe it or not.
Wow.
My mother was very out of the box. She wanted me to learn Hebrew. Like, she felt it was important that we spoke really good Hebrew. She knew that Flatbush was that. And so she sent me and my brothers to Flatbush. But then for high school, my parents felt like a little too much peer pressure. My mother was a Central girl. So I went to Central and I traveled. There was always like a van or whatever. Also, friends who lived in the city, we slept over. So I was a Central girl. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you were raising your kids here in the lap
Yeah.
of luxury in the Five
Yeah.
Towns.
Yeah.
And then there was a seminal event in your
Yeah.
life. Please share that with us.
Yeah. So we were living, me, my husband, and my 5 children. Well, actually 4 children. We were living in the most beautiful place that you could want to live if you want to live in the diaspora, which is the Five Towns in Long Island. And my mother with her husband and my sister from that marriage, my soldier woke up. What is that? The Nurofen you could take too. I'm on a Zoom. I know. Take that. He's very sick. My son came home from base for 2 days, very sick. Yeah. Yeah. And he has to go back tomorrow. So anyway, sorry.
Adena, towards the end, if he's dressed, can we have a few words with him also
Maybe.
after
If he
our
can
interview?
talk, he will. Moshe, maybe you'll come upstairs in a few minutes. Okay, babe? Okay. He's going to take his medicine. So we were living in the most beautiful place you could want to live in the diaspora, spiritually and materialistically. And my mother, her husband, and my sister from that marriage, they were living in Lawrence. It was like, separate, like it was like our second home. My kids were just like always there, grew up with, having my mother nearby. And my mother, had this lifelong dream to always to live in Israel. And it worked for her. It came out that it worked for her after my sister's bat mitzvah. Financially and all other things considered, that was the right time for them. It was in August of 2000. And I was pregnant with my 4th at the time. And for her, it was a good time. For me, it was terrible because we didn't want her to leave. I didn't want her to miss the baby. And I didn't want her to leave. And also it was the Intifada, and there was a lot of bombing and killing and shooting and a really kind of not safe feeling. It was a time of not feeling safe. And yet she was determined, and yet she felt like that was exactly what Israel needed. And so despite that, they picked up and they moved and they made Aliyah in August of 2000. And we saw each other a few times over the course of that year. When I had the baby in December, she came to visit. We were together for Pesach. We had a beautiful vacation together. And then on Shavuot, which turned out May 29th of 2001, it was Isru Chag of Shavuot. It was still Chag. It was still Yontif for us in the Five Towns where we were. And she went to Jerusalem that day with her husband. My brother, who was visiting, was in the car with them, and they had a few Trumpistim with them in the car too. And a car filled with Arabs, but that had stolen Israeli plates, came from behind them on the road and opened fire from their automatic weapons, shot through the rear windshield, passed them on the left, and shot more through the driver's side rear window and driver's window and front windshield. And in that shooting, my brother was very badly injured. He was shot in the back of his shoulder and arm. My mother's husband was driving the car. He was very badly injured, mostly from shrapnel and glass. But my mother and one of the Trumpists in the car, a 19-year-old girl named Esther, were both killed in that shooting. And that was a life-changing moment for, of course, our whole family in many, many ways. But most significantly, no, that's not true. Not most significantly, but in appropriate to this conversation, it was the trigger for us wanting to make Aliyah. It was the trigger for us saying, like, this is really what she wanted. She talked about it. She always said, we're going to do research and you're going to see where you want to live. Maybe you don't want to live where we live in Efrat. That's okay. You could go to Jerusalem. You could go to Renana. Like, but we're going to help you. We're going to look. We're going to pave the way. And in the end, that's what she really wanted. And so in the end, like it sparked a fire in our soul, and combined with that, like knowing that it was her dream and knowing that it was her wish, and also the immense hug, love, hizuk, just emotional and spiritual infusion and love that we got from being here for the funeral and being here for the shiva. We became very, very connected and very attached and very motivated that that's where we wanted to be. And that's
It's
what triggered our
interesting.
move here.
It's interesting, Adena, because during this whole war, there are still people making Aliyah. There are still people going on Nefesh
Amazing.
B'Nefesh. And while intuition would say, as this, to start with, your mother went to Israel in the middle of the Intifada. Most people would say, hey, let me wait till it blows over. People are now your Israel is at war. You have people coming from the north to central Israel. You have people from the south coming to central Israel. You only have El Al flying in rather than a whole bunch of airlines coming in, and yet people are still coming in droves to live, to volunteer. And to
Amazing.
me, that's counterintuitive. But you went, and that was your motivation, and you pulled your roots up from the 5 towns, and you put yourself into Efrat. And how many years ago was that, Adena?
August will be 20
Wow.
in August.
And what has that been like? First of all, you now have a beautiful, I see all of your pictures on Facebook. You have a
Yeah.
beautiful, beautiful career in Eretz Israel. Tell me about it. It's called A to Z Events.
Right. My business is called A to Z Events Israel. What I basically did is I took my skills and my knowledge and my everything from having an interior design business in the 5 towns. And then after a few years of living in Israel, I acquired more skills, meaning understanding Israeli culture and Israeli, not necessarily verbal language, but also, cultural language. And I took those skills with a lot of like desire to do something that I could, at that point I was already divorced. I was a single mom and I needed something to bring in a parnasa, but also still be a mom and to use my skills. And so my clients are from worldwide, from Europe and Canada and Australia and South America and the United States, who have a connection to Israel, and they're Orthodox and they're Reform and they're Haredi and they're not religious and they're from every cultural background you can imagine, but all one thing in common: they love Israel and they want to be in Israel for their life, lifetime momentous event, whether it's a bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah, or a wedding, or family reunion, or all kinds of reasons. I could tell you so many beautiful things that I've done for people where I not just make them a beautiful event, like the actual simcha itself, but create like a beautiful experience for them while they're here with their family and their group. And that's what I do. I bring people here and I kind of make some sort of connection with them to Israel, but also brings happiness to Israel, bring parnasa to Israel, and very, very blessed that I could do something that is like helpful to Israel and helpful to the people who are coming here, and that I'm good at, and that I'm using my skills.
And your daughter has a related field because she does beauty in
Yeah,
Israel. I've
yeah,
seen all of her Facebook pictures as well.
yeah,
The nails, the makeup, the
yeah,
hair. She's
yeah,
now she's now using her skills and volunteering to go to army bases to give the army people, the soldiers,
right.
haircuts and clean them up and make them feel like mensches.
Correct. Her workers, the people, the girls who work for her in her salon, they are the ones who are actually traveling to bases and doing massages and haircuts for the soldiers at no charge. And they're asking for sponsors to be able to enable them to do that. My daughter herself is a Miluim wife. Her husband is in the reserves. She has a toddler at home and she's pregnant. So she can't be traipsing around to bases herself. She's holding down the home front for her brave, strong, amazing soldier husband. And helping other Miluim wives. Like she's taking a lot of clients now who are also other wives who are home holding down the front with while their husbands are away. And it's a big, big undertaking.
It's huge. So let's go to that army thing. Going back to where I started,
Mm-hmm.
your son, if he was here at age 17 or 18, would probably be doing, let's say, a gap in Israel, come back,
Right.
go to some kind of college, Ivy League
Right.
college, would be having parties, would be enjoying
Yeah.
a quiet upper middle class, you know,
Yeah.
five towns existence. And instead, I'm
Yeah.
bawling as I see your smile on your face as you're
Yeah.
handing this son over to the army. Tell me what that
Yeah.
felt like to you, because I was a little horrified, and I'm like I almost felt like you were Abraham with Yitzchak at the Akedah.
Oh,
You
no,
had
no, don't get
all these
dramatic.
girls, and I'm
No,
like, and now you're giving your son to the army, and
no.
I'm like, and with this smile on your face,
With
and I'm saying,
definitely with
what
a
is she
smile and
doing?
definitely
And
full heart,
pride.
full smile, full pride. Absolutely. You know, when Moshe was born, so he's my fifth child after four girls. So, the prince arrived and it was like, all the like trumpet horns and red carpet welcome. With that being said, because we always talked about like living in Israel and moving in Israel and loved Israel, and my girls from a very, very young age, in the IDF, when you have an only son, an only child, they require the parents' signature permission for him to be a combat soldier, because it's such a sensitive army and we're such a beautiful nation, that they want to make sure that the parents are approving or willingly let their son go into combat and willingly risking his life, chas v'shalom. And so from the time he was a little baby born, all of his little sisters used to say, we're going to sign. Like our parents are going to sign. Like they always knew. That's always what we talked about. We're going to sign. It was like not even a question. And someone recently reminded me of an incident that happened many years ago. It was shortly after we made Aliyah, and we were still coming back a lot during the summers as a family for family vacation. Eventually that peters out, because as the children get older, they have lives and responsibilities and things that they don't want to leave for 2-3 months at a time. But in those days, we were still coming back pretty often as a family vacation. And I was talking to a woman on the plane who mentioned to me that she's like, they're moving to Israel, but they're not making Aliyah. They don't want to make officially Aliyah. Why? Because she didn't feel like it's fair for her to decide for her children that they're going to go to the army. She had boys. She had more boys than me. And it's not a fair decision. How could I do that to them? I said to her, don't you decide where they live? Don't you decide what school they go to? Don't you decide what doctor they use, what medicines they take, what clothes they wear? It's your job right now as a mother to make certain decisions for them as they get older. If they decide to make changes in their life, I mean, technically a kid at 18 could go to court and change their name legally, right? So we do what we do for our children. And then at some point they can make changes if they want to. So she said, I don't feel like that's right for me to make that decision. And I was just like, don't worry, honey, my son, he'll protect your son one day.
And he did. And he
And
is.
he is. And he is.
So,
So
Adena, Remind me again. Let's go through this also. You're now married to Avi Kapon.
Right.
Now, Avi just this year was a recipient of a kidney.
Correct.
So technically, tell me if I'm wrong, he could have not gone
Look,
into
technically,
active duty.
Avi is a high-ranking officer in the IDF, and he was a career officer for many years, and he's retired even from before the kidney transplant. But even after his retirement, he continued as like in volunteering, meaning like he still was like in an official role, but it was as a volunteer role. It's kind of a gray area that's hard to explain. Certainly, as the war began, he was there was like not a question that he was going to be there and be a part of it. So like he like was, I mean, that's Shabbat morning, that's Simchat Torah morning. By 9 a.m., by 6:30 in the morning, he already knew what was happening. By 9 a.m., he was in the car. He had already put in all of his equipment. He had already gotten all of his ammunition, equipment, and everything that he needed ready, and he was heading down south. So that was already like not even a question. But did he have to be there? Probably if certain people knew that he was a kidney recipient, they wouldn't let him be there. But it would be very hard to stop him. So yes, he's there from his burning desire to protect and defend Eretz Yisrael, Am Yisrael, his love for Eretz Yisrael and his Zionism, and nothing could stop him. Nothing.
And have you seen him since then?
Yeah. He's like I said, he's a high-ranking officer, so he gets. I've seen him a few times. He came home today for an hour. He needed to get some of his like medications and his pills, and it was on the way. And he came home for an hour. He said hello. We had a hug. And even in the few times that he's come home, sorry, I would say he's 40% home. There's like a lot of brain space there, checking his phone a lot, checking messages a lot, seeing what's going on. And also, I imagine like it's psychologically, he can't turn off 100% knowing that he's going back. So I get like 40% of him when he's here, but that's good. I'm happy for that. It's nice and I appreciate it. So he's
So
been home like 3 times in the past 2 months.
you have a husband in the army. Now you have a son in the army.
Yeah.
How do you feel? How does each day pass?
And my son-in-law, who's
And your
my
son-in-law.
I just love him so much. I think like it's almost hardest for me in a way, even though it's not hardest for me, but with my son-in-law Natan, because I see Daniela, my daughter, like having such a hard time being missing him so much and having, a toddler and being pregnant, and it's really taking a toll on her. And also I love him so much. I see them a lot and I miss him. I miss him a lot. And like I said, Avi is high ranking, so he gets to be in touch. Like I won't say we have conversations every day, but I hear from him. He'll send me like, had a long day, super tired, good night. Okay. But at least I heard from him. I know he's okay and I know he's alive. Moshe too. Moshe, I get to hear from him. He has contact. Natan, not so much. Natan is like in a position or in a job, or I don't know how to explain it, that he can't always be with his phone or have his or be on the phone or be in touch. So it's like usually a week or more without hearing from him, and then there'll be some sort of like hi, and that's like, oh, thank you for saying hi. Like it's just a little something, and then like he's also been home like he came home once for 12 hours, he came once for 24 hours, and he came once for 30 something hours. But it's hard not to hear from them. It's hard. We miss them. I miss him a lot.
I'm going to go back to the very beginning again with you, Adena. You could have been still around the corner from me.
Yeah.
You could have had all of your family in a place where you didn't have to worry and think about them.
Yeah.
And you're there. You're in Efrat.
Yeah.
Tell me what makes it worthwhile.
Oh, look, it's sort of like I said this to someone earlier, like a different question, but when someone says like, how has Aliyah like affected you and your children, and how is it? It's sort of like saying like, how has becoming a mother affected you? Like, it's like hard to imagine what it's not when you don't like before you were a mother, right? Like, what would your life be if you weren't a mother? What would my life be if I wasn't here? I can't really even think about it. I know that I am so thankful to Hashem. I'm so grateful for giving me this chut of raising my children here. It comes with a lot of challenges. It comes with, I like to use like positive words. I don't want to say like, hardships. I don't want to say sadness. I don't want to say that, but sometimes there is. Sometimes there are hardships and there are sadness, but I just call it a challenge because it's what we need to do to live here. And that's the biggest zchut that we have. My children are not the same. They wouldn't be who they are today if they were living somewhere else and they grew up somewhere else and they had these different life experiences than they had. My children grew up in Gush Etzion. It's not only living in Israel, it's not Renana, it's not like the Sharon. It's Gush Etzion. Like my children have witnessed terror attacks. They've been to a lot of funerals. They know a lot of families who have been affected by it. Like we're like in it. They grew up with it. They breathed it. It's in their being. And for better or for worse, they're a little traumatized, but they're also who they are because of it. And they're beautiful, wonderful, amazing humans. So like I can't regret any of what they've grown up with, and I can't regret any of their experiences because they're such beautiful humans. They're amazing humans. They love Eretz Yisrael. They love Am Yisrael. They're loyal, devoted, and caring and sensitive, and very, very, very much believe in everything that we do here and what we and how we live and why we live here. Very much.
Tell me, since October 7th, what changes do you feel in yourself? What are your thoughts? What are your emotions about this catastrophe? What are you thinking physically
On a
about?
personal level,
Yeah.
like I don't want to talk about my opinion, my political opinions, or my opinions about like what the IDF should have done and could have done in the government. Like I don't want to even talk about that because to me it's a much longer conversation, and it's open for debate, right? But my personal emotions and my feelings and my experiences are not open for debate. And what I know that my friends and family and neighborhood and our feelings and our emotions and our experiences are not up for debate. And that is, we started out, Surrey, from October 7th for at least 2 weeks in fear. We were scared to open the window, scared to leave the house, scared to like sleep in the downstairs floor of the house, scared of infiltration, scared of rockets, scared. We
Was
didn't
there a
know.
thought at all that you would, during this takufa, come to New York and
No.
there was
Let's get one thing
never,
straight. That's never an option.
that's never
Never
gonna,
a thought.
okay, good.
Never.
Okay.
That's never a thought, never an option, never in anything. Not in my children's minds, not in my minds. That's not an issue. That's like, it's like saying, well, my mother's sick, so let me move out of the house and find a new mother. Like, no, that's not an option.
Interesting. Okay. Sorry. You were saying, so the first 2 weeks you were
With
in
fear.
fear. Yeah.
Fear. And I'll tell you, we've been through a lot of intifadas here, or I don't know if you want to call them an intifada. We've been through a lot of waves of terror. We've had military operations. We've been through like, these, what they call like terror, kufot, how do you say that? Like periods, like of things happening. Nothing like this. This is different. This is very different because this was countrywide, countrywide, left, right, religious, not religious, north, south, east, west, middle, everywhere, everyone. Like it affected every single person in this country, no matter what. And we were all on the same side. Like it broke down all barriers. And in the past, that's not necessarily true. In the past, when there was, let's say, waves of terror that were happening kind of in what we call the settlements in the Judea and Samaria area. So you did have a lot of central Israel or leftists saying, well, get out of there. If you don't like it, then leave. We don't really want you there anyway. We don't believe in the settlements. Like there was a political aspect to it and there wasn't 100% support. Or why are you guys putting our soldiers at risk? Like sometimes there like in the past, there wasn't always across the board agreement in what was happening. Not like today. It's across the board. It's across the board. Everyone wants to go in and get them and get rid of them and fix this and be together and support our soldiers and support the reserves wives and families and support the evacuee families and support the hostages and their families. Everyone is on the same team now and on the same side. And that's crazy. It feels crazy. It feels beautiful, but it feels crazy. Like, wow, look at that. The Haredim are helping them and the Chilonim are doing, like, it's crazy. We're all like excited to see all these incredible initiatives and actions and things that are happening that are like, this is so beautiful. It's crazy.
Do you feel the fear before time has passed when Iran was threatening to go after Israel if Israel went into Gaza? Was there that real fear? And B, is there a countering feeling that we're at the foot of Mashiach? Is that thought there?
Yeah. I think that we're in a turning point of history, in terms of like world history, but also like Jewish history. Like this is a chapter of the Torah. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't want to say like, do I think that this is Mashiach? But yeah, I do think that it's a life history changing moment of time that we should grasp and be in the moment. Like, let's not forget it. Like I keep telling my kids, like, we're in a moment of history, like soak it in, be present, maybe write a diary, something. I'm like, well, today with social media, we don't need to write diaries, right? Because we could always look things up. But I'm like, like be like we're in a moment of history. Like I'm trying to like remember that myself and remind my family about that. Do I think it'll
So
bring Mashiach? I hope.
What happens on a daily life in your life?
Right.
In now that Israel is at war, is Efrat mobilized? Is Efrat going about its day the way it always goes about its day? Where are you? Is it something in between? Where are you in Efrat in all this?
Yeah, so it's an interesting question, which I just recently had this conversation with a friend of mine in Tel Aviv. So I think every like area in Israel is a little bit different based on their actual geographical location. Okay, so in the beginning, we were all under a kind of lockdown. There was no school. They didn't want people out on the streets. They didn't like, it was like really like wartime lockdown. Everything was closed and everyone was home. Little by little, depending on the area, things started opening up. Again, depending on the area, heavy rocket fire in the south, they're still not back to normal till today. Ashkelon, Ashdod, Kiryat Gat, a lot of those areas, I was going to say another place, I can't remember. They're still not 100%. Their schools can't be open. They can't have a big enough bomb shelter to get all the kids in at the same time. They don't have enough staff to get all the kids in at the same time. You have husbands in Miluim, they can't come. You have wives in Miluim, they can't come to work. So like everyone's short staffed. And so it depends on their area. Tel Aviv and northern Tel Aviv, they're still getting a lot of rockets and sirens all the time, but they are sort of trying to get back to normal. Like I said, my friend in Tel Aviv told me most of the restaurants have opened for sit down. For a while, they were just takeaway. A lot of places open, but people aren't really sitting down and coming because they're just scared of getting a siren and having to run to a shelter. So there's not a lot, but there's always like, and here, like you asked me here where I live in Efrat, in general, in Judea and Samaria and areas like where I live, there's always a high army presence on a regular basis. Times like these, even more so. We have our first response teams, plus we have the army, and they're very, very present. They're very, very active, and they're like the best. They're amazing freaking rock stars. They're like amazing. We're in like the highest security. I feel safer here than like my husband's family lives more in the center of Israel, but they're, I'm sure you know from what I'm talking about, but like somewhere like where you're near Netanya or Renana, they're very close to certain Arab villages. And there they don't have checkpoints like we have here over the green line. So they don't have army presence and they don't have security checkpoints. And it's very, very, very easy for terrorist infiltration. It's very easy. And nobody thought of that or considered it or worried about it until October 7th. So now they are concerned about it. Now they are worried about it. Now they're like, hey, what the hell? Right across that highway, that 4-lane highway, they can like just run across. And so now I'm sure you've heard a lot of people have been taking out their, using their rights to take out having a personal weapon and gun licenses. And a lot of cities that never in their lives had a first response team, now they do. And now they're starting to have some security entrances into their neighborhoods and cities. This is something that we've always had. That's how we live all the time. So we feel very,
Hold on,
very.
I need you to stop for a second because I have to tell you that you're like, you're so proud. We always had a high alert security system. And I'm thinking she came from the 5 town.
Yeah.
And she doesn't even realize
No, I
what
realize it.
like I have been living for the last 20 years in a place that needs constant security. That, and you say it like, you're proud.
No,
We've
but
always,
I do realize it all the time, and you're gonna laugh when I tell you this. Just a few, like the last time my son came home for a visit, so him and his friend who also came home from the army, and they were like all sitting in my couch in the living room, and we're all sitting there together. Next thing I know, they all got their M16s out, and they're looking, and they're comparing, and they're checking, and they're doing, and they're playing, and I took a picture, and I sent it to Jeffrey, and I'm like, I used to live in the 5 towns. Like, look at my living room now. The guys are playing with M16s. So I do every once in a while, like, have this, like, what the hell is going on with my life here? But look, you're saying it as if like, oh my God, you're living in a place that needs security, and you're saying it with pride, but I'm saying it with like, I have this hood to live here. And in order for me to live here, I need the security. In order for me to have this hood, I have to have like my beautiful, amazing soldiers who are like the Kedoshim and Malachim of Hashem that like Hashem Yishmor Aleim. I'm so blessed that they're like here for us and taking care of us so that we have the schut to live here. Do I feel scared every single day because I see army jeeps? I don't. I know that when tourists come every once in a while, they're like very taken aback that they see soldiers and they see these big weapons and they see jeeps. We're very used to it. It's true. But it's not a scary feeling at all until October 7th. It wasn't a scary feeling at all.
Let me ask you 2 more things. Did you see or did you watch or did you hear about the march on Washington? And do you know about all the people who are coming to volunteer and send goods and things like that? What are your thoughts?
It might not be a popular opinion and people might not want to hear this, okay? So get ready.
Yeah, go for it.
Let me start by saying that I've never was, and I never will be one of those people that say, make Aliyah, come in Aliyah. I'm never like that. I'm like, don't. If you don't want to, don't. Because it's really hard. You have to want to. I'm not going to try and convince you. I'm not going to try and talk you into it. If you don't want to do it, it's not going to work. It's very hard. Okay? So like when you have like all these people saying, make Aliyah, that's not me. So let's start by that. Now what I'll tell you is I believe that rally was very important for American Jews. They needed to feel that they were doing something. They needed to feel that they were making a difference. They needed to feel important. They needed to feel connected to us. Not everybody can hop on a plane. Not everybody can write a check. Not everybody, so I think it was an amazing, beautiful opportunity. Also, they live there. So when they see all the pro-Palestinian rallies, they want to say like, we got to be louder than them. Like it was for them. For us, or for me, I'm happy for you that you needed that and it was good for you and it made you feel connected to us because I think you should feel connected to us. You should feel connected. You should feel responsible. You should feel some sort of like spark and that you're like some sort of like responsible, sort of, not 100%, but definitely connected, right? So that's what I felt about that rally. And for the people who are picking up and getting on a plane and people who are sending checks and people who are collecting, getting fundraising and or bringing things in or, buying, really important equipment and items. It's the most beautiful thing in the world. It's what you should be doing. You need to do that. You're supposed to do that. If you're not here, you need to support here. So I'm happy for you. I'm proud of you. Keep it up. We need it. And hopefully it's an actual spark of a connection that will be much, much longer lasting. Maybe that's Aliyah. Maybe it's not, but a much, much stronger, longer lasting connection. To me, that's the importance of all of that.
Adena, you are inspiring. I thank you so, so much for taking the time to be here with me. I hope that all your Chayalim come home safely. I hope all of the Chayalim and the people who are hostages come home safely. I love you. Thank you for giving us your time and your perspective and your chizuk and your inspiration. And I'm so proud of you, Adena. You were my neighbor and I miss you, and you were right around the corner, but you're in a better place. And it's very,
I
very
thank you so much
inspiring.
for that. I thank you for the love and the support and the like appreciation. And for the acknowledgement. And it means a lot. And I just really thank you. Thank you for hearing me.
My pleasure. And keep up the good work, letting us know what's going on Facebook, letting us know what the experience really is. I've loved watching you over the years with your smachot and even that beautiful pride that you had in your son when you gave Moshe to the army,
Thank
to
you.
the
Thank you.
Israeli service. Have a good
Amen.
day, Adena.
Amen. You too. B'sorot tovot.
Amen, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye.